All right, today we are going to be taking a look at this year's rookie class compared to the last 2 years' rookie class and drafting them in a one-round mock draft. So we're going to do 12 picks of the last 3 classes. We're going to see how this all stacks up. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're coming out with all kinds of Dynasty content, rookie analysis, etc. for this off-season. It is now Dynasty season. Make sure you subscribe. You'll get a leg up on your league mates. We'll try to help you win your Dynasty leagues this offseason. Make sure you like the video. So, getting started into this rookie mock draft is going to be really interesting to see where these 2023 players stack up compared to these last 2 draft classes. So, talking about rookies, talking about prospects, figured we would bring on our guy, JCJ Dynasty. So, Jeremy, what's up, man? How you doing?
Happy to be back, guys.
Yeah.
Have a good show. Talk some young players.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't make us look too dumb with all your knowledge over there. So, all right. All right. So we're just going to go through and we're gonna alternate our picks here. We'll do again 12 picks, so we'll each have a couple picks here, and we're going to go through and pick from this pool of, again, 2023, 2022, and 2021.
2020. Good.
Rookie
good.
players. So excuse my babbling.
Yep.
So, Jeremy, you're our guest. We'll let you pick first. So you've got the 101 out of these last 3 classes, so who are you going to take?
I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. I would go Jamar Chase with the 101 in this draft. If you could find somebody in your league that will trade you Jamar Chase and you own the 101, I would do that every single day of the week, twice on Sunday. I would want Jamar Chase over the 2023 101 at this present moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yep. I think that's obviously, this isn't close, so there's not really a lot to talk about. There are going to be some people though that disagree with this, which we're just going to tell you is probably not a very good sign. So yep. I'll give you the 102. So who are you going to take at the 102 here, Nathan?
Honestly, I just after just seeing the crazy number of the crazy amount of talent we have at wide receiver, I just have to go Jalen Waddle. I know I might get some crap for not taking Bijan, especially with his market value right now going early to mid-second in our ADP, but I just have to go Jalen Waddle. I mean, the man has been hyper-productive in an offense with Tyreek Hill when everyone thought that he was going to take a big hit there, or maybe even Tyreek would take a hit from him. Neither of them have really. He's a boomer bust guy. We knew that from him, but I mean, his clearly his volume went down this year, but his production went up, which is really impressive. He doubled his yards per target. So a lot of things to like about him. His situation is not the most ideal thing, especially with Tua suffering from multiple concussions this season, but I really don't think it matters with Jalen Waddle. He's a cornerstone receiver, in my opinion. I'm taking him.
Yeah, so I guess at the 103, that leaves me taking Bijan Robinson. And look, obviously I'm not the biggest advocate for taking running backs this early, especially young running backs. But when you're looking at Bijan Robinson, number one, you have to, look at the level of prospect he is. I think it's fair to say, out of this pool of running backs from this last 3 years, you've got Bijan, you've got Breece Hall. They're probably the 2 best prospects by far out of this. And then you've got the Kenneth Walker, ETN, Javonte, Najee Harris, James Cook even. I'm just kidding, not James Cook. Sorry, Jeremy. But when I'm looking at that, I think Bijan is the clear number 1 here. And just based on what he's going to do from day one alone in the NFL, he's going to come in and he's going to be a workhorse back for somebody. He has an elite set of skills. He was absolutely hyper-productive in college at Texas. He's coming to the NFL. He is projected to be a first-round pick. He's going to have the capital. He has the profile. He's going to test, hopefully, very well at the NFL Combine. So for me, getting Bijan here at the 103 is actually a fairly good value to me because, I think there could be an argument made to take him over Jalen Waddle. And while personally I'd probably take Jalen Waddle like Nathan did, I'm really comfortable having the 3rd pick in this draft and taking Bijan Robinson. So I took Bijan there. Jeremy, you got the 104. Who's going off the board next?
So a lot of different ways that you could go here. I think ultimately what I'm going to do is take the guy who I thought was the best receiver in last year's draft class. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson at the 104.
Okay.
You're talking about a guy who just put up 80-plus receptions, 1,100 yards receiving with absolute dog shit at quarterback. So you're talking about a guy that could really amplify an offense and take guys like Mike White, Joe Flacco, who's on his last leg, looks like he doesn't even want to be out in the field, and turn him into a somewhat decent quarterback, at least completing the ball to Garrett Wilson, making him look good. So I have faith that Garrett Wilson, regardless of who his quarterback is, he is somewhat quarterback-proof. So I like Garrett Wilson at the 104.
I think it's really, really hard to argue with that. I mean, Garrett Wilson It is amazing what he was able to do with his quarterback situation this year. He is essentially proving already that he is dang near quarterback proof, which is crazy. That he is 22 years old. He has wide receiver 1 upside in fantasy. There is absolutely no doubt about that. So even, I would put Wilson approaching that Jalen Waddle tier of wide receivers in Dynasty already. And so, getting him here at the 104, I think is a really, really nice pick. So, Nathan, you got the 105 here.
Yeah, at the 105 here, I'm going to take another team's wide receiver 2, and I'm going to go with Devonta Smith. With Devonta Smith, I was debating here between him and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And the thing with me right now is this could easily change within a couple months, but we haven't seen the landing spot yet with JSN. And with Devonta Smith, I mean, he's produced as a wide receiver 1 this year.
True.
In a loaded offense where pretty much everything was going against him in terms of the way that the Dynasty community was viewing him as a talent, as a rookie who put up 900 yards his rookie season. And he puts up dang near 1,200 this year off of 136 targets and 95 receptions. I think with him and his situation with Hurts, obviously Hurts taking a big leap up this year at the quarterback position. And I think while A.J. Brown has had a very healthy, very productive season, it's still not a guarantee every year that he will remain healthy. I know that was a big concern going into this year where we said, we're kind of concerned with the injuries that A.J. Brown has had throughout his career. And again, this is not a guarantee that he's going to stay on the field at all times. And when he's not, if he's not, then Devonta Smith is an elite wide receiver producing every single week, and he's shown it in this last stretch of the season. Got to go with him now because we know the situation that he's dealing with. JSN, we just don't yet. That can easily change in 2 months. So
I guess that leaves me to smash Amon-Ra St. Brown at the 106 because I really thought you'd take Amon-Ra there. So I was trying to prep and figure out. So wow. I'm interested. Okay. I'm interested why you took Devonta over Amon-Ra St. Brown, because when I'm looking at Amon-Ra, he's the wide receiver 1 on his team. He's just as young as Devonta Smith. He's come out and he has fairly decent competition there too. I mean, not the best, but he's continued to produce, and he's also been a wide receiver 1. So he's being. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown in startup drafts is pretty consensus going 1.5 to 2 rounds earlier than Devonta Smith at bare minimum. So I'm curious, why did you take Devonta?
I mean, I'm not shorting Amon-Ra at all for what he's done. But, I mean, I think the JMO question mark is still there. And with the draft capital that Jameson Williams has, like he's going to be around for a while.
Good point, yeah.
Hawkinson left. That was a big, big plus for ARSB for sure. I'm not fighting that at all. The Lions had a really, really good season where they almost made the postseason. And they're probably going to ride with Jared Goff. And while I don't think Jared Goff is a bad quarterback, it's a less ideal situation than having Jalen Hurts throwing the ball to you, which I never thought I would ever say. But here we are. And it is just leaps and bounds better than I think any situation that you're going to have with Goff, and that's the deciding factor.
I mean, a quarterback kid. I think that's a very valid argument, and it's not like Devonta Smith's not close to the level of production. I mean, Devonta Smith has had a very productive year in fantasy, so you're looking at that, and that's actually I think an acceptable answer. I'm more confident in the long-term star power of Amon-Ra St. Brown that I've seen that over a large stretch of games. So I'd probably be more comfortable taking Amon-Ra.
That's fine with me.
But I love Devonta Smith. And again, he was he
was one of our biggest buys. He finished as a wide receiver 1. He's wide receiver 10 on the year.
That is amazing. I mean, again, I think you could make an argument based on team situation too. But real quick on Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's not a whole lot to say here. Obviously, he had that very, very historic stretch that went from last season into this season where he was scoring like a maniac in fantasy. So you saw him do that. You saw him continue to produce into this year. He finished as a wide receiver 1 too, right? I don't remember where exactly, but fact check me on that. Yeah. I mean, you've continued to see Amon-Ra St. Brown, although he was not the highest drafted receiver that you could ask for in terms of draft capital. He has continued to produce at an extremely elite level.
Wide receiver 9, and actually less receiving yards than Devonta Smith.
Yeah, and it's just he gets that purely on targets, and the man is a target hog. He is also very, very good. He's definitely got the edge over Devonta Smith in the red zone too. So
I think he has less than 10 targets more than Devonta Smith.
So, I mean, then you make a good argument. I mean, statistically, there probably is. I think
they're in the same tier personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would hard argue that, but I definitely thought you'd take Amon-Ra. So that was interesting. Amon-Ra, not a lot of questions. He's an elite. I mean, again, you saw, there's only been one running back taken here. You're seeing these rookie wide receivers, these younger wide receivers, because of their value. They're going to maintain that value. They're going to increase in value. They're going to be cornerstones you can build around for a long time. They're going to last longer and hold their value better than running backs. So I think we've kind of seen that. So you've got the 107. Who you got, Jeremy?
After you just divulged into your running backs hold less value than wide receiver, I think I got to take Breece Hall here.
Yep.
At the 107, I think it's a really good value.
Yes, sir.
Most startups that we've done so far this offseason, he's gone anywhere from around the 203 to around like the 210-ish, 211. I haven't seen him sneak into the third round, so I think Breece Hall is going to maintain his value, and I think what we saw from him the first 6 weeks of the season before the Week 7 ACL tear, he looks just as good as advertised, if not better.
Yeah.
And the Jets offense clearly took a step backwards once he left the lineup, and it made them a lot more one-dimensional, and the quarterback play suffered as a result. From what every report you hear out of Jets camp, the ACL tear is fairly clean, so it's not a Javonte Williams or a J.K. Dobbins type of injury to where he's not going to be able to make it back by the time the season starts. I would anticipate they ease him back in, so maybe the first month you're not seeing the type of workload that he was getting around those first 6 weeks, but I really think Breece Hall is going to be just fine, and he's proven to be a very good talent in the NFL already, so I'm more than comfortable taking him here.
I think great analysis, great pick. That's exactly who I would have taken there. I think you could make an argument to take him over some of these wide receivers still, because people are doing that. So, great pick there. All right, you've got the 108.
Yeah, at this point, I'll take JSN. I think he is a generational receiver talent coming out of college. I don't think you have to be told again, because a lot of other YouTubers have told you that he's outproduced Garrett Wilson and Olave, who both went back-to-back in last year's draft, and look where they are now in the NFL. I think there's a lot of promise, a lot of expectations with JSN, and he could eventually be a buy pretty easily, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he already has been.
But, yeah, he's just – we know what we're getting from him. I don't think it matters what situation he falls into. He's going to produce at a high level.
Yeah, looking at the board here – I think there's a good argument here at the 109 to take Kenneth Walker. I mean, just based on what he was able to do in 12 games his rookie year. But I'm going to go Chris Olave, and it's because of what I talked about. It's because of the value being retained by these receivers, by these young receivers, because of what Chris Olave, and again, it's the Devonta Smith rule now. Chris Olave had 1,000 yards. I mean, I think him and Garrett Wilson were the first pair of rookie receivers from the same school ever to have 1,000 yards, both of them in their rookie
bad
year.
situations.
And they both had sucky situations.
Yes, Devonta Smith played with Hurts the year before, but he was way worse than he is now, Hurts. So
exactly.
Same situation with Olave.
And Olave, he was every bit as advertised going to the Saints. We were really high on him last year. He looked very good. And again, to come out at age 22 and have 1,000 yards as a rookie, there's not a whole lot more to say about this. As much as I love Kenneth Walker, and I would venture to say you're probably going to take Kenneth Walker here next, or he's probably going to go within the next 2 picks. Again, it's just for me, building around that cornerstone wide receiver, knowing that he's going to maintain. He's not even being drafted as ceiling yet. I mean, he's being drafted still in the 3rd or 4th round of startups. So, I mean, there is room for Olave to, as he continues to show how many achievements he can get, how high he can go. He could go as high as the 2nd round. You're seeing Garrett Wilson climb up to starting to get into the late 2nd, early 3rd. Olave can still get there and more, too. He has that upside, so I like Chris Olave here. Yep. All right, you've got the 110, Jeremy.
I'm not going to take Kenneth Walker. Okay. I think I got to go Kyle Pitts here.
I think that's probably
I think I got to take Kyle Pitts here at the 110, and especially majority of the time we play tight end premium leagues.
Yep.
We're talking about a 22-year-old tight end. There's only been 2 tight ends in the rookie year to have 1,000 yards receiving. Mike Ditka and Kyle Pitts. That's
dude.
The list. Fucking Kyle Pitts he's the real deal.
Yeah.
And whether or not Arthur Smith realizes that he's a generational talent, I mean, that's a conversation to be had for a different day, but I would rather roster the elite upside and talent of Kyle Pitts as opposed to one of these running backs, because what do we always say, that talent wins out eventually, that the situation could change from year to year. what's more likely to happen? Is Kyle Pitts still going to be a really good tight end 2 years from now when he's 24, 25 years old? Or one of these running backs potentially could get injured. They could not get a second contract. They could get another running back to come in and take out their snaps. There's not going to be another tight end coming in that's going to start challenging Kyle Pitts for his touches and his targets at the tight end position. So I really like Kyle Pitts, particularly at the 110. I think it's a really good value.
I think it makes a good point. I mean, especially if you're playing in a tight end premium league, like, look, at tight ends notoriously, like, we tend to give tight ends the benefit of the doubt because they take a couple years to develop, and then after age 25 is when we start looking for them to start breaking out. I mean, Kyle Pitts did it right away, and his situation was awful. So, I mean, does Kyle Pitts still have that upside? Absolutely. And not only does he have that upside, but we saw him from a yards perspective perform right away. I mean, he's done it to some extent. So, I mean, I think you could make a really good argument for Pitts to go a lot earlier than this too. I mean, I think I've seen in some of these, combined drafts, Pitts go in the top 5 picks, and I'm not necessarily looking at that and saying that's a joke. Kyle Pitts is the real deal. I mean, draft capital, production that he's already proven, skill set. Yeah. He's a freak.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing that we were seeing with TJ Hawkinson before we went into this season. We were like, man, he's shown it before. He's already produced at a high level before we expected him to break out. And then he had a down year. And then he was a really good value. And look where he's ended up now. He's pretty much, I mean, he's easily a top 4 tight end, debatably top 3. And I don't think, I mean, for me, that's awesome. And then for Pitts, who is just a better talent, and again, we've seen it before. So we've seen what he's done and capable of.
You've got the 111.
I know there's all this talk about Kenneth Walker, and you know what? I'll go ahead and take him here. I mean, he's been you can't ignore the production. You can't ignore the receiving upside that we thought wasn't there. And in a very questionable situation, QB-wise in Seattle, we don't know what's going to happen with Geno. We don't know what's going to happen at the wide receiver position. We don't know what threats are going to be there. And you know what that means? They're just going to keep feeding Kenneth Walker the ball.
Yeah.
And for a running back that has, for any running back whose life is shorter than any of these receivers and things, I mean, if Kenneth Walker's putting up points in production now, that has value, and I think that's got to have more value than London right now. So I'll take Kenneth Walker.
Well, that leads me to take Drake London. So, with Drake London, again, he was paired with, Kyle Pitts on that horrific for fantasy Arthur Smith offense. And even London, I mean, even a guy who a lot of people, who had the best draft capital of any wide receiver in this class. And a lot of people had questions about his game in terms of him being a little bit one-dimensional because he's a big guy, because he's not the fastest guy, because he didn't have that super breakaway speed. And he still had 750 yards, and his target share was, like 25% or something? Fact check me. It was something in the 20s. I mean, again, last year's rookie wide receiver class was pretty darn special. And I think as you compare it to these classes here,
target share was 29.5%. And a 33% red zone target share.
I know outside of Pitts and London, there was hardly anybody there. I mean, if you want to count Zacchaeus, then we can count him too. But that's ridiculous. And for him to come out his rookie year and do that, not only on a terrible offense, but paired with Kyle Pitts, who is essentially a receiver lining up at tight end. I mean, I think this is going to say a lot about what his upside is, what he could potentially do in his career in the NFL. Pair that with the fact that he also is, I think he just maybe turned 22 years old. I mean,
he's 21 and a half right now.
He is so young. That is ridiculous. I'll take him over ETN, over Christian Watson, over Michael Pittman, Javonte, etc.
Pittman, I think, right now is the only guy that's close to London.
Yeah.
And I would have considered Pittman, but I think you got to think the age gap. The age gap is probably a big thing there. And then, I mean, with Pittman, we don't, obviously, same thing. We don't know what the QB situation is going to be, but I think he's a close 13 here if we were doing a 13th pick, like because of the targets that he's commanded this year in a horrible offense.
That's true. He has gotten targets, and that's been nice. So, yeah, again, the notable guys we probably didn't pick here: Christian Watson, Treylon Burks from last year, Michael Pittman, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Najee Harris didn't go, and then at tight end, really the only other one has been Pat Freiermuth. I think the lack of tight end talent that has come out of the last couple of classes is very indicative of where we are today in terms of a tight end landscape in Dynasty. So I think you're kind of seeing that play out. So that kind of wraps it up. Again, this is just how we would take it. This is just how it played out. We didn't do quarterbacks here, but in terms of, these wide receivers, these running backs, and then the one tight end and Kyle Pitts, this is kind of just how we would redraft these guys. And kind of predicting in terms of this year where Bijan, where JSN, how they're going to stack up compared to these guys that we already know have proven in the NFL and have become fantasy studs. So that's going to wrap us up for today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got all kinds of rookie content coming out for you this spring to get you prepared for your Dynasty Rookie drafts. The best way to get a leg up on your league mates is to know these rookies well. We're going to bring you the best information on the rookies that we can, so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Jeremy, thanks for joining us, man. It was good to have you. As always, we appreciate all of you guys watching and listening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.